The first two chapters of Jeff Rice's Digital Detroit introduces Rice's approach to a networked rhetoric through his exploration of Detroit. Rice moves through the spatial, informational, and emotional linkages that make up the network he names Digital Detroit. Owing to some of Ulmer's My Story approach to choral space in Miami Virtue, Rice's Digital Detroit is far more accessible read. Where Ulmer's narration in Miami Virtue is more detached, Rice's is intimate, like the difference between first and third person perspectives in fiction. The first thing that caught my interest was Rice's discussion of maps. It had never occurred to me that maps were blatantly subjective, specific to the interest of the map maker. The traditional map is the embodiment of the inevitable. Today's digital maps, such as MapQuest or Google Maps, is a perfect example of Aristotle's rules on rhetoric. They gather all the relevant information, determine the place, the audience, aka by car, public transit, or walking, and provides the best argument map in return. In most cases, the best means the most time efficient. Yet we can map a space by other criteria than stoplights, traffic patterns, and speed limits. We can map it through the experiences, culture, views, memories, emotions, and more. A map can become a way of learning the nature of a space, a way of exploring all the dimensions that define it. This mapping of linkages, which defines space, brings us to an updated view of matter. Classically, matter has been defined in two dimensions, mass and energy. Today, we add a third dimension to the definition, information. With RFIDs, GPSs, and mobile technologies, today we move through spaces and interact with objects which are aware of their surroundings. A building can track temperature, the number of people entering or exiting it, just as a cell phone is aware of its location and motion. We turn to the informational dimension of matter during our journey into electricity. One would think this is a new concept, but it is quite an old one. We approach the informational dimension of matter through the internet. Aboriginal shamans relate to the informational dimension as a matter through dream time. All things from man to rock had memories, aka have informational dimension. We consult web-based and databases to access the informational depth of our world. Shamans consult the spirit animals, plants, and even rock. It is said a mountain's memories span ages since life began. Shaman's rhetorical medium is dreams. Our digital rhetoric medium is layers and interfaces. Just as the printed book changed how the common man received information in the 16th century, Rice suggests that the online mapping service, the access to informational dimension of matter, will change how the average person relates to the 21st century. The digital map allows people to relate to a place through linkages, whether that place is a virtual one, such as a web page, or a physical one, such as a city. We are no longer limited to a parent's static relationship with a place, but can relate to it through all new dimensions of personal, emotional, and historical. Our idea of place shifts from the Aristotelian and Ramus ideas of static, hierarchical constructions to fluid movements of forces. We perceive a place as the movement of ideas, cultures, emotions, and so on. We can see that any place is a network of data which, when reordered and stylized, offers new opportunities to relate to the place. However, we are not suddenly liberated by our new idea of place. We begin a new way of perceiving with old tools, which keep us from witnessing the broader aspects of place. We have to learn to see the world with new eyes. This relationship to place through the networking of information has a greater danger than blindness. The very medium of the digital determines what is considered knowledge. Whomever controls the layers of data and the interfaces to that data controls our perceptions, and through our perceptions, our relationships to places. Through our access to information, our network can ideally cross barriers of specialized knowledge and further cooperation and collective understanding. This hits the wall of copyright, intellectual property, and established authority structures in and out of academia. This new way of working with information requires a new pedagogy. The very structures of our institutions of higher education impair this networking of knowledge. The ivory tower of academia demands that knowledge and learning be structured according to traditional patterns. Breaking out of these patterns threatens the establishment. The establishment fears change. Yet the threat of change from new modes of information transportation is nothing new. Roads and shipping routes didn't simply allow for the exchange of goods in the past, but allowed for the exchange of ideas, from roads to rails, rails to telegraph, telegraph to telephone, and so on. Each advancement inspired change at a greater and greater rate. The present nearly instantaneous transmission of information, exchange of ideas, has begun to change our very perception of what is real. With an ever-growing network of shared perceptions, ideas, and knowledge, the identity of a place or ourselves becomes fluid and uncertain. We no longer have stable relationships to our world. The fluidity frees us to redefine our relationships, but comes at a price. Lack of stable foundation causes stress and anxiety and a sense of dislocation. Our very notion of what is real becomes confused. Some see it as the natural chaos before an explosion of invention and growth. Others fear that it is the harbinger of societal collapse. Bob Dylan's "What" becomes our own daily question in this age of automated, information-saturated, media-invasive, identity-bombarded existence. What are we doing? What is going on? What does it mean? We don't have those answers, but we're on the road to finding them.